there's different camps you can land in, right? You can land in the camp that the Bible is the inspired divine word of God. But even if you don't get that far down the road, I think it is very, very difficult to deny the idea that the Bible is at least credible. But the fact of the matter is, when it makes historical statements, you dig around, you find the rocks, and you find out they're true, like the existence of an Erastus or a Gallio, or going back further, a Nebuchadnezzar. So in Acts, Luke tells us something. It's actually quite interesting. It's in Acts 18 when Paul's ministry in Corinth is sort of coming to a close. It says the following, verse 12. It says, while Gallio was proconsul of Achaia, the Jews made a united attack against Paul and brought him to the judge's bench, or the BEMA is the proper term. And then it kind of goes on from there. But what's important is just this statement. It's just a throwaway statement by Luke, whether it was meant to be documentary or not, why Luke decides to mention the name of the governor, we don't really know. But for whatever reason, Luke, again, he mentions the person and the job. So he's Gallio, proconsul of Achaia. Achaia is the region around Corinth. Okay, fair enough. Who cares? Moving on. And he tells the story of how Paul was, tried. He's the judge. You can go to Corinth, to the BEMA. We've been there. Roman judges are way up above you. Our judges today are a little bit elevated. Their judges stood up on a platform where their feet were above you, definitely making a point. And, you stood down below. The rock that they would tie you to and beat you if you were judged against was right there. It probably had the blood and, whatever else from the previous guy they just beat a few minutes ago on it. So there's a lot of tension going on, and the sort of Jews of Corinth being to make their accusation against Paul. Gallio rules against them and actually has them beaten instead. That's all recorded. And then Paul basically leaves Corinth shortly thereafter. Okay, so there's that. Where do we get to the archaeology? Well, a few miles north of there, maybe 30 miles or so north of there, in Delphi, which is where the oracle, if you've heard the oracle of Delphi, actually Delphi, if you've heard those stories before about how ancient Greeks would go to the oracle and ask a question and get an answer. And so there's another inscription from Claudius, the emperor, and he's basically saying like, hey, we want to restore Delphi to its previous, glory. And I'm so thankful to you, my friend. And he names him Gallio, proconsul of Achaia. I'm thankful to you for helping me in this process. And it's an inscription, and it's on a wall in Delphi. So you have the name, and you have the job again, but more importantly, you have the year. Because it's dated. Now it's dated in the Roman way. It's not, it doesn't say 50 AD. That was what they were doing. It's dated to the year of Claudius's reign. Okay. So it says the number of affirmations as emperor, like the 12th year or the whatever. It gives a date via, by dating in his reign. But what we know then is that Gallio was the governor of Achaia, the proconsul. It was a 1-year appointment from 51 to 52 AD. Okay, well, if Paul was there for a year and a half, then depending on exactly when in 51 or 52 he left, we can say with certainty that Paul arrived in Corinth either in 49 or 50 AD. Okay, that's absolutely unquestionable. I don't think any real historian questions that at this point. Even skeptics, I basically have to admit, yes, there was a guy named Paul. We have all these books he wrote, and we have all the other people talking about him, because he made quite a splash. So there's no question that Paul existed. There's no question, I don't believe historically, that this guy Paul had something that happened to him, that he believed he saw Jesus. Whether you want to say he really saw him or not, again, that's up to you. I think he did, because I'm a believer. I believe the biblical text. But even if you're a skeptic, you have to say that this guy, Paul, thought he saw something, and it totally changed the rest of his life. And he spent the entire rest of his life acting, as if the thing he saw was real and true. I don't think anyone can argue that. there's different camps you can land in, right? You can land in the camp that the gospel, the Bible, is the inspired divine word of God. But even if you don't get that far down the road, I think it is very, very difficult to deny the idea the Bible is at least credible. That when it makes historical claims, now you may want to deny certain ones of them because you're like, well, that's a miracle and miracles don't happen, or that's but the fact of the matter is when it makes historical statements, you dig around, you find the rocks, and you find out they're true, like the existence of an Erastus or a Gallio or a Pontius Pilate, or going back further, a Nebuchadnezzar or a whatever. Like you dig around the rocks, you find out the guy existed. So you have to, to me, you have to at least say that it's historically credible. And even if you don't want to say that, you have to at least say it is sometimes historically credible, Yeah. Like you can't just say it's just all bunk and there's nothing in that's just not true. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, click like and subscribe. It really helps us. And if you really enjoyed it, go on over to our website, thelandofthebible.com, and become a supporter. It helps us generate more content and gives you access to our full library of video and Bible study content.